My name is Daniel Carter, and I am 68 years old. For most of my life, I learned one simple lesson. The people who know the least about you are often the ones who think they know you best. My daughter, Emily, believed I was an ordinary retired man living alone in a small house at the edge of town. Family Karma Effect viewers, our channel currently has only 70 subscribers, and our next goal is to reach 100 subscribers. So please support us by subscribing to our channel. Her husband, Mark, believed the same thing. They thought my greatest possession was the house I lived in, the old pickup truck sitting beneath my carport, and the few $1,000s I kept in a savings account. I never corrected them. There was no reason to. For 42 years, I had kept one secret: 42 acres of land. Not a small piece of property. 42 acres of some of the most valuable, undeveloped land in the county. And nobody in my family owned it, not even my daughter. Had bought it when I was 26, long before Emily was born. At the time, nobody wanted it. The land was rough, covered in trees and weeds, with an old abandoned farmhouse near the northern boundary. People laughed when I told them I had bought it. They said I had wasted my money, but I had seen something they hadn't. The city was growing toward it, slowly, year after year. Roads appeared where there had once been empty fields. Businesses came closer. Houses spread across the valley. And eventually, the land became worth more than I had ever imagined, but I never sold it. Because that land wasn't just an investment. It was the last thing my wife and I had built. Together, she died 11 years ago. After she was gone, I couldn't bring myself to sell the one thing that still connected me to the life we had shared. Emily knew her mother had loved that property, but she never knew it belonged to us. Told her it was simply land we had once hoped to buy. That was easier. And over the years, Emily stopped asking. She had her own life, her own marriage, her own problems. And I didn't want money to become the reason my daughter visited me, so I stayed quiet. Then Mark came into my life in a way I never expected. At first, he was polite. He called me Mr. Carter. He shook my hand, smiled when Emily wasn't looking. But there was something behind that smile, something I couldn't explain. The first time I noticed it was during Emily's birthday. Dinner, we were sitting at a small restaurant downtown. Emily was talking about work. I was listening. Mark barely said a word. Then the waiter placed the bill on the table. Mark reached for salt. "I'll take care of this," he said. I thanked him, but when he looked at the bill, his expression changed. Not because of the amount, because someone had placed a business card beside it. Mark picked up the card. His eyes moved across the name. Then he looked at me. "Daniel," he said quietly, "do you know a man named Robert Hayes?" I froze. Robert Hayes was a property developer, and he had been trying to buy my 42 acres for almost 3 years. "I've heard the name," I said. Mark studied me. "He's trying to acquire some land outside town." "I know. Apparently, the owner has refused every offer." I took a sip of water. "Some people don't sell what they don't need to sell." Mark smiled, but this time, there was no warmth in it. Must be nice. Emily didn't notice. She was looking at her phone. I looked across the table at my daughter's husband, and for the first time, I wondered whether he had already discovered something. I had spent decades hiding. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the beginning of the end of my secret, and Mark was about to learn that the quiet old man he had never respected was not nearly as powerless as he believed. Chapter 2. The question he should never have asked. 2 weeks later, Mark came to my house alone. Emily was working late. I knew that because she had called me earlier that afternoon. Mark didn't call before arriving. He simply knocked on my door at 7 in the Yopal evening. When I opened it, he was standing there in a dark jacket, holding a thin folder under his arm. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He entered without waiting for another invitation. That bothered me, not because of what he did, because of how comfortable he suddenly seemed. He sat in the chair across from mine and placed the folder on the coffee table. I didn't touch it. "What is this about?" I asked. Mark leaned forward. "I have a business opportunity." "I see. Actually, it could change Emily's life." That got my attention. "Then you should tell Emily." "I will." He paused. "But first, I wanted to speak to you." I looked at him. Carefully, he opened the folder. Inside were apps, property records, aerial photographs. I recognized the boundaries immediately. My land, all 42 acres. My stomach tightened. Curry placed one document on the table. "You know this property?" I didn't answer. He looked at me. "Mr. Carter, I know you do." I slowly leaned back. "Where did you get these?" "That isn't important." "It is to me." He smiled. "I've been researching the land around the new highway project." I remained silent. "The property is extremely valuable," he continued. "Developers are offering serious money." "Good for them." Mark's expression hardened. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." "No, I don't think you do." He tapped the document. "The owner of this land has refused to sell for years. But if the right person could convince him..." I interrupted him. "Why are you telling me this?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Because I think you know who owns it." The room became very quiet. For years, I had imagined the moment someone discovered the truth. I had imagined anger, arguments, accusations. I had imagined Emily standing in front of me, asking why I had kept such an important part of my life from her. I had never imagined Mark would be the first person to confront me. I stood up. Mark watched me carefully. "How much do you think it's worth?" I asked. He gave a number. I almost laughed. It was less than half of what I knew the land could eventually bring. "You've done your homework," I said. "I have. But not enough." His face changed. "What does that mean?" I walked toward the window. Outside, the evening light was fading over the quiet street. "I've spent 40 years watching people chase money," I said. "Most of them never stop to ask what the money will cost them." Mark stood. "I am trying to build something for my family." "Then build it." Honestly, his jaw tightened. "You've been hiding this from Emily." "Yes, why?" I turned around. "Because I didn't want her to grow up believing that her father was worth something because of what he owned." Mark stared at me. Then he said the one thing that told me everything I needed to know. "You can't keep this from her forever." "I know." He picked up the folder. "But when she finds out, she'll ask why you trusted nobody." I looked at him. "No," I said quietly. "She'll ask why I trusted you." For the first time, Mark looked uncomfortable, left without saying goodbye. I closed the door. Then I stood alone in the hallway for several minutes. I wasn't afraid that Mark had discovered the land. I was afraid of what he intended to do with that knowledge. And deep inside, I already knew one thing. He hadn't come to my house because he cared about Emily. He had come because he had finally realized that the quiet old man sitting across from him owned something he desperately wanted. 42 acres, and suddenly, my daughter's marriage had become the most dangerous part of my life.